Hello there! Welcome to Shake the Box Laboratories. This is where we make evolution in motion, a show where we talk about video games in active development. You know, early access. And today we're going to be taking a look at a most fascinating video game, Caves of Qud. I don't actually know if it's pronounced Qud, but I'm going to be calling it Qud today. We're going to be doing this in two parts. In part number one, we're going to take a look at the game itself. What kind of game is it? How is it played? Is it fun to play? And then part number two is where we're going to take a look at the development itself. How Freehold Games is using early access, how development has been progressing, and the future of its development. So, come with me to the land of Pamgaea. I said, come with me to the land of Pamgaea. Igor.
Yes, Master.
The screen, please?
Right away, Master.
Thank you, Igor. Anyway, come with me to the land of Pamgaea. Made by Freehold Games, Caves of Qud has been in development since 2014, and in early access since 2015. The game itself is a marriage of traditional roguelike mechanics with a robust role-playing experience mixed in. When you first launch the game and start a new character, it's the RPG elements that are going to greet you. Choosing a starting class, stats, abilities, and your character's background. The character creation is remarkably robust, by the way. You can make characters that range from a fairly standard human with proficiency in guns, all the way to a four-armed, four-legged mutant that can expel corrosive gas capable of melting almost anything in the game world. Currently I have a character that has 4 legs, 4 heads, 5 faces, and a small collection of other assorted body parts. This kind of build variety and the impressively varied play experiences one can have is made possible thanks to the simplistic graphics. Originally made using ASCII, similar to Dwarf Fortress, or Rogue if you want to be old school about it, the game now has a tile-based system in place for graphics. This tile-based graphic system provides the basics, and a text readout of events fills in the rest of the picture for you. Together it means nearly anything can happen. And I do mean anything. Rips in space-time can whisk enemies, chunks of the environment, and even the player to literally any possible point on the game's impressively large map. You can clone yourself, mind control your clone, and then eat yourself, and live your new life as clone you. Heck, you could start the game, mentally dominate a spider, kill your body, and live a new life as a simple spider in the game world. Note to self, can we make sexy spider women? Oh, what I meant was The world is a far-flung post-apocalypse. In many ways, it reminds me of the world of Ooh from Adventure Time, where science, weird alien biology, and mysticism all intersect to form a bizarre and alien world that still feels sort of familiar. It's also a massive layer cake of history, with bits and pieces of lore regarding the great sultans who fell to the sands of time long ago, with on top of that, the newer civilizations that are just trying to get by, and all of these different interacting factions that fill up the game world. A great deal of that history is procedurally generated every time you play, making the experience of learning about them new and interesting for every run. Currently, the main plot of the game is not yet finished, and I'm honestly very excited to see where the story goes as development continues. At the moment, we have some dramatic twists and turns, a variety of memorable and likable characters, and thanks to the wealth of procedurally generated things that populate the world, you don't get terribly worn out on the main plot as you replay. They instead serve as enjoyable landmarks or anchors to your otherwise untethered and ludicrous run through the game world. As for the gameplay itself, it'll feel very familiar to anyone with experience playing traditional roguelikes. Time only really advances when you allow it to, either by moving, taking an action, or passing your turn, standing in place if you will. When an enemy attacks you, you have an opportunity to attack the enemy, and vice versa. They'll often attack you at the same time, depending on your speed stat versus their speed stat. If you enjoy all of the math that goes on behind the scenes in your games, you can have a blast determining the optimal penetration for every weapon while balancing your armor value and your dodge value, and determining whether or not your action economy speed is faster than your opponent's. There's so much going on in the background. Or, if you're like me, you just make the numbers get bigger and you enjoy yourself while playing the game. I tend not to worry too much about the background math. Just having a general understanding of how penetration works is enough, you know? A bigger penetration is better. Penetration. For me, the real joy of Qud is discovering all the weird little stories that were generated, paired with my emergent story of playing the game. For instance, I once found deep in the earth, a cryogenic stasis tank holding the clone of a fearsome warrior. I tried to fiddle with things a bit and eventually broke the tank. I figured, oh well, I can't kill the frozen man safely without freezing myself, and honestly, he scares me, so I left. Hours later, while dealing with a goatman-infested zone and making my way toward a dromad caravan, I froze in terror. In front of me was the previously frozen and no longer frozen clone that I had found earlier, and he was very much thawed and heading for me. He had hunted me down somehow. I was blown away. I had traveled many screens and gone on a great adventure, and somehow he tracked me down. And obviously this is not a fight I could win. Literally, by looking at the guy, it says on the bottom, impossible. This guy, I have no way of damaging him. I was freaking out a little bit, but in a stroke of luck, the Dromad Caravan ripped a hole in space and time, and I managed to use the chaos of this hole, now depositing some very scary late-game enemies all over the place, to lose my pursuer. I juked him around this portal to somewhere else. And stories like that are why I love this game, and games in general, so much. It's why whenever I sit down to stream on Twitch, I find myself drawn back to Caves of Qud instead of something else. It's so much fun, but also, it's filled with so much potential. So, early access. It's a tricky thing. You're selling a product, and you're selling a promise to one day finish that product. I've seen cases where people essentially felt like they were robbed. You took their money and you ran with it, they say. It's almost like those Kickstarter nightmare stories, you know? Best case scenarios, though, you end up with people that feel a sense of pride on something that they weren't even an employee of, you know? They're like, oh, I worked on that game, I helped, that's my bug fix right there, my name is in the credits sometimes. Early access can really go either really bad, or so good that you have people that are even more passionate about the game than they ever would have been in the first place. So how about Caves of Qud? Where do they fall on that spectrum? Are they... or are they... haha! Those are the only two sound effects that you could really associate with these things, and I nailed it. Alright, let's talk about Caves of Qud. Freehold has been going about this in a very proactive manner. The game gets updates, literally, every week for Feature Friday. These updates could range from major plot additions to very minor game bug fixes and UI improvements, and little minor tweaks to game mechanics. Many of these updates include fixes and tweaks that come directly from player feedback. The Discord alone is incredibly active in this regard, and in most other regards, it's a very fun Discord. And you can watch in real time as they fix a problem. It's very rewarding. We've already touched on some of the major advances that have happened over time. Like I mentioned earlier, the total graphical overhaul is pretty significant, but players can also opt into an in-progress user interface that's much more sleek and modern compared to the default one. But what else can we expect to see in the future? And when will the game be done? Because those are two of the most common pitfalls in early access, a lack of a clear understanding of what the roadmap is and what the destination for that roadmap would be. Well, Freehold once again shows us how to do early access right, or at the very least, a manner that I consider right. The website has a very clear roadmap of what features are still being worked on, right next to a list of major features that have since been implemented. This gives us a very clear idea of the progress that's been made, and what we can expect to see with future updates. Literally, every one of these is exciting to me, but if I had to choose just one of them to be excited about, it's more music. The soundtrack as it currently stands is already one of my favorite soundtracks from a video game of all time. And you're gonna give me more? Yes, please give me more. This is one of the few games where I immediately purchased the soundtrack, and hey, you know what you're listening to right now? That's right. This whole time it's been Caves of Qud music. Isn't it great? Most exciting of all is the roadmap ends at the start of next year. 2022, making this the ideal time to start paying attention to the game's development. Heck, forget about that. Now's the time to start playing the game. Get in and experience the last stretch of this game's development, and help guide it to the finish line by joining the Discord and helping them fix bugs or giving your feedback about how the game plays. I know I plan on playing this game for quite some time, and I can't wait to see where the main storyline leads, and to see what other wild things can happen in this giant sandbox of possibilities. Oh, not what you would think that would smell like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at Caves of Qud, a game that I just can't get enough of. I'm obsessed with it in a lot of ways. I just keep on making new characters and looking for new interactions and going to new places. Anyway, I hope that now you're a little bit excited about Caves of Qud as well. But perhaps more importantly, do you know of any games in early access that I should take a look at and put into all of my impressive machines back here? Those things do stuff, you know. All kinds of things. I got the YouTube bell in there. We're trying to figure out if it actually does anything. It's printed out some spectrometer results right now. Very excited. Anyway, if you had fun, be sure to hit that subscribe button, which is somewhere on the screen right now, and of course, check out some of our other videos. We got some really good ones. Anyway, live and drink, my friends. Oh! Oh, oh! Oh.
Oh, I don't know what I was expecting, drinking from a weird beaker I found on the back of the specimens fridge, but here we are. Life is a slug. I feel weird.